Well, it's that time of year again, that cozy digital fire. And, I like to read letters from fans and even from foes at the end of every show. But today we're going to make that the entire show. We put out a call by email and on the website to ask people to send in their question literally and ask me anything. I can't think of any question that I would reject. Now, there might be some things that are private that I wouldn't answer, but really no holds barred, a chance for you to put your toughest or bestest questions to me, even of a personal nature. So without further ado, let me read your letters to me. And I have not seen these before. These have not been vetted in any way. Our team has just literally printed them out, put them in this big Santa's bag, and I'm just going to read them and then chuck the ones I'm done with on the floor. So here we go. This is from Caitlin Pigeon. Merry Christmas, Ezra. Straight to the point. I was wondering if you had any advice for anyone who would like to start journalism. What is a good way to start? I've had so much hope since I first heard about and watched Rebel News. The way you report on what's real and true in Canada and all that you do are beyond an inspiration. Well, thanks very much, especially during the convoy. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your heroic actions towards making a better future for not just Canada, but also Australia and thus the world. Wishing your team all the best in the new year. Sincerely, Kate. Well, that's so nice of you. Thank you. And I'm glad you gave a shout out implicitly to our Australian team, Avi Yamini, and he's got two colleagues he works with down there. They do a great job. You might not expect my answer about how to start journalism, but maybe you do. These days, you're a journalist if you have a smartphone and a Twitter account. And I know that sounds like I'm not answering, but actually I really am answering. I don't know if you remember, but when you mentioned the convoying here, I went down to the convoy for a couple of days in Ottawa. I spent most of it here in Toronto sort of quarterbacking things, but I did go to see with my own eyes Ottawa, and I was invited to give a couple of brief remarks by the folks who were running the PA system there. They recognized me and they invited me up. And my message to people there was, you are the media, be the media. If you've got a cell phone, these days every cell phone has a camera in it, right? Guess what? You're a videographer. If you have a Twitter account and they're free, guess what? You can write a story. And these days you can write quite long. So I would suggest starting in that way as a citizen journalist using the tools of citizen journalism. And you might say, well, I want to be a big shot than that. I want to have a studio. I want to do something fancier. Walk before you run. Do you have something interesting to say? Can you build it up from scratch without hurting yourself financially? Because, you didn't explicitly say you want to make a living in journalism because it's hard to make a living in journalism. Most people are failing at that, right? The only reason CBC continues on is because of the subsidies. I think starting journalism and doing journalism for a living are two different things. So my advice to you would be start small. Tweet about things in your own neighborhood. Photo or video things in your own realm. If you're a student, there's lots of crazy things going on campuses. If you're not a student, these days in Canada, I'll just give you an example. There's lots of homeless encampments. That's a very sad thing. We're all used to them in big city slums, but they're even in small towns now. So with the tools you have, a cell phone, a Twitter account, wherever you are, there is news where you are. And if you can film it and tweet it and write a little story, that's journalism. And I would start doing it as sort of a hobby before trying to make it a full-time enterprise. See if you like it, see if you get a reaction, see if you get a response. All right, I better speed up if I'm going to get through these letters. I'll keep going, and thank you for that. Calvin Arndt says, hey, Ezra, my wife always asks me, how does his wife put up with the crazy life he leads, referring to you? She must be a superwoman. So yeah, is your wife polar opposite to you? How does she cope with all that you and Rebel go through? Well, that's a very friendly question. And yeah, can you imagine how tolerant she must be? And and she doesn't even roll her eyes, which I'm glad. I remember asking her once, how come you're not watching my shows? And she said, Ezra, I get it. 24 hours a day, I could recite your monologues for you. I don't need, after listening to you all day, to sit down to relax by listening to you some more. She didn't quite use that language, but it was sort of funny. When I asked her why she doesn't watch it, she says, I hear it all day. No, she's I mean, I try and get home. I mean, I travel a lot, as you may detect, but I always try and get home as fast as I can, which sometimes truncates the trips. For example, sometimes I go, when I go to cover a place like Amsterdam, where I went when there was riots about a month ago, or Ireland. Sometimes I'm only on the ground for 24 hours. And I think, well, boy, I could sure use an extra day here. But I do try and get home because I like to see the wife and kids. And they're not very political people, which I think is excellent. I mean, being political is a certain path in life, and not every and we're not just political. We're sort of conflict oriented, rebel, in a way that we rush to the controversy and we try and fight it. And not everyone is built that way. I am, and so I'm lucky I've a home life situation that can abide what I do, and they're great. They're great. They really are. I couldn't do it without their support and patience. Ivan Hamlin says, "Hi Ezra. I just wanted to know if you or any of your journalists are going to be at Trump's inauguration. Keep up the great work." Well, the answer to that is yes. I think David Menzies is going down with Efraim Monsanto, if I'm not mistaken. And I have been invited to the Rumble Truth Social inaugural ball. And we publish on Rumble. As you know, that's a competitor to YouTube. It's a free speech competitor to YouTube. And the president of Rumble has invited me, and I've accepted the invitation. I've never been to an inauguration before. I don't know what to wear to an inaugural ball. I just put on a proper suit, I guess. I should tell you, as soon as that ball is over, I'm getting on a plane and going, how ironic is this, to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, because that starts on the 20th of January. So the inauguration day is January 20th. It's also when the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos starts. So I thought, well, it's a real tradition of Rebel News to go to Davos and cover it, and I don't want to miss that. It's very important to our viewers. However, Avi Yamini and Sheila Gunn-Reid will both be at Davos from the very first minute. In fact, I think they're arriving the day earlier. So I will miss a day and a half in Davos, but I'll be there like literally the next flight I can take. I will. And I just feel like to be invited to an inaugural ball by Truth Social and Rumble, given our relationship with Rumble, I feel I should accept that invitation, mainly because Sheila and Avi are going to cover off the World Economic Forum. I believe that our annual trip to the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos is the most important journalism we do. You might recall that's when I scrummed Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, with Avi Yamini. And you never know who you're going to get there. I mean, last year I bumped into the president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I don't know if you saw that one. A couple of years ago, it was Greta Thunberg. So I think that's a very important place for our citizen journalism. I'm going to take a detour through the inaugural. I've never been to one before. I'm sort of excited about it. And, what's happening. There's a lot happening in the world at the same time, isn't there? Brian Krause, my question is, can you select a subscriber once a month to shadow you and or one of your reporters for a day in whatever office or region that makes sense that's closest to where they live or work? I'd be fascinated to see how the sausage is made, and I bet many other subscribers feel the same way. I volunteer for the first month you start this program, as long as it's not in April, as I'm a tax accountant. Thank you for considering it. Well, Brian, that sounds like a lot of fun. How the sausage is made. Yeah, well, it is sort of fun behind the scenes. I mean, every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. in Alberta and 7 a.m. in BC, and I say that because we have teammates in different time zones. We have a Zoom or Skype call where we all sort of talk about stories of the day and who's doing what. And then I'll just take in the example of David Menzies. Typically he goes somewhere and the cameraman goes with him and there's some interaction. God forbid, sometimes he's even arrested. And then to bring that back, and then the cameraman is typically also the video editor. And maybe there's some comments said in the studio. Yeah, it's an interesting process. And then when it's done, it's reviewed by an editor, and then it's uploaded to the internet, and tweets are written. For every story, there's probably 6 pairs of hands that touch it, maybe even more. And then sometimes, if it's interesting, someone writes an email to send that out to the list. So it is, how the sausage is made is a great phrase. In terms of the logistics, Why don't you send an email? I mean, I'm not sure where you're located. It would be a different experience if you were out in the field, like in Vancouver, just to watch Drea report something. Whereas here in Toronto, you would probably see more of the different stages in the assembly line. We wouldn't want you to get underfoot, trampled or anything, but it could be fun. It could be fun, sort of reality TV style, almost like TMZ brings a camera into the newsroom. All right, last question. Leanne says, what surprised you most this year, good or bad? I was surprised that Trump won as convincingly as he did. I wasn't surprised that he got the votes. I was surprised that there weren't more shenanigans. I was convinced of it. The kids use the phrase red pill and blue pill, and then there's a phrase white pill or black pill. These are, different moods. Red pill is you wake up to reality. Blue pill is you like to still labor in unreality. Black pill is you feel like everything's doomed. White pill is you feel delighted and optimistic. I was black pilled about the election. I thought they're going to do everything and anything, trillions of dollars, entire wars will turn on this election. I thought the deep state, whatever, anything, nothing, they will not let Trump win. And look, they tried twice to assassinate him. They came within an inch once. So when he won and won every swing state and won the majority of the popular vote, I was shocked. Not shocked that he had the support, but shocked that he overcame the shenanigans. And I'm still reeling from that. And that gives me hope here in Canada too. Pope John Paul II always used to say, where there's life, there's hope. And isn't that the truth? So never give up, never give up, never, never, never.